Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I'm going to hop into this monthly Rapid Arena and play 2 games. Time controls here, 10 plus 0. And as usual, just share my train of thought along the way. Okay, game 1. Let's go with e4. e4, e5. Let's see. Right, I guess I'll go with knight f3. What was crossing my mind just there for a second was bishop c4 and queen f3. Scholar's made idea is sort of inspired by some image I saw on Reddit with that setup and the knight going to e2, holding up the knight d4 move to bother the queen. But anyhow, we're in more standard territory. Let's see, d3 castles, knight c3. I'll go at knight c3. There's no knight f6, so if the knight was on f6 rather than the bishop on c5 here, there's that center fork trick. Chop and then there. But I am now in time to just watch over e4 here. I'm not concerned about knight g4. I could castle in response to the pressure on f2. My opponent clearly does not want to see a pin or knight jump to g5. Let's see. I may follow suit. h3 here. Or, you know what, let me take time out to expand on the queen side and prevent the knight for bishop exchange. I'm expecting my bishop to eventually be challenged. Usual case, when the bad bishop is so actively posted, it needs to be addressed. So, I mean, I know we're in somewhat of a copycat mode here. What's running through my mind? h3, knight d5. I don't know that I'm really getting anywhere with knight d5. I'll go with h3. I'm wondering if black's going to castle, because I could consider some caveman-like attack. Just launch a pawn, try and crack open a file, and get towards the try and get at the king. I'm expecting this. This was the other move that was crossing my mind. It remains very equalish. Now, in response to bishop e6, what am I doing? Not really too excited about capturing. Maybe a capture, especially with h6 in. Knight here, looking at that jump, possibly? Okay. So here we are. I wonder if I could get aggressive now and maybe use that h6 coupled with castles against black in this case, since I have yet to commit my own king to the king side. It seems attractive, actually. g4, g5 next, and on the capture there's this. I'm developing a new piece. The knight is in a pin. The g-file is half open. If there's a downside, I have split pawns, but that's more of a dynamic position. The file should be the factor to look into more so than structure, isolated pawn. And what I like about this, actually, is I get it in, and once my bishop is on g5, if that's allowed, there's no counter strike in the center, so this wing play, there's not that useful reaction or thematic reaction to try and strike in the center. d5 with my king still in the center, definitely have to give weight to those possibilities. My center being broken down, but it feels pretty solid here. First of all, how is black going to react to this? Maybe a knight move. Knight h7 is possible. What do I have up my sleeve in that case? Not exactly sure. This one with this, and okay, maybe the knight could drop into g5 in that position. I should go straight for this. I definitely do not want to take on e6, especially playing g4 and creating 2 holes here on the f file. I would just be asking for trouble. f2. Okay, and we are here. We're seeing these very moves, and now it may be that this is just winning now. In fact, I'm pretty sure it is winning, because there isn't a convenient way to get out of this pin, and what's going to happen shortly is these pawns are going to end up doubled. I'm going to be looking at a completely opened G file. Knight d5. Okay, there's bishop b5, bishop b4. But there's still this issue with the pin. Getting out of it comes at a snail's pace. I think this might be an only move to try and stay in. It's still looking super appealing for me with this open file. If this is played, do I play here? No, chop, chop. I think this is a way out of it. Isn't it? Seems like it. Also, this is a maneuver. I think black has to try this. This would be way too devastating. Okay, this jump in here is not forceful enough as far as I can tell. So I think now I should just go ahead and jump in. Any tricks here? Boom, boom, boom. There's an accident that can occur shortly on f2, but that won't be enough. Like knight takes, queen takes. Even that's not enough. I'm up the queen there. So let's just make sure of things here. I feel like it's really close to being a clean win. Knight d5, c6. Knight takes, pawn takes, bishop here. Yeah, I'm convinced. Getting the open G file very soon. So, yeah, I think in response to g4, knight h7 was the way to do it. At least hold up that idea of g5. I was able to get the break in conveniently. Okay, now that move I didn't see. Okay, I was expecting this one. Now I could, in this case, consider bishop captures, and then a check, and then knight here. Yeah, I like that this knight sticks around controlling this f4 square. I'm going to go with that. I'll keep the knight around in this case. I was going to go with the knight if c6 was played to address the threat on my knight. Different story here. Okay, any details here regarding move order? Don't think so. Check. So what am I talking about? This one or this one? Yeah, probably the check straight away. This doesn't need to lead to mate, by the way. It's not one of those positions where I have to be super accurate. There's nice positional positives along the way. This square is the one that jumps out to me. Fantastic outpost. This, okay, my opponent resigned. Yeah, this is too much. I don't know that there's going to be a defense after knight h4, and then the queen entering. Feels like it's going to be mate shortly. Anyhow, let's move on and play one more game. Okay. Game number 2. All right, I guess we'll do a d4, d5 game this time around. e4, e5, d4, d5 game. Okay, knight f6. Let's see, knight c3, no knight c3. Let's see, c5, c5, knight c3, a6, chop. This one, no, I'll go with c5. See how white wants to play it. Okay, going with a very solid setup. London territory. Let's put the knight here. Not concerned about the capture on c5. I would have e5. And then the capture on c5. Let's see. What's running through my mind? Queen b6. Or, no, actually, bishop f5. Yeah, bishop f5. And a queen here. And queen here, queen b3 is cool. c4, queen c2. I don't have bishop f5 there. Queen can take. Pawn takes. I'm not getting the rook. It's time to defend. Because of this move order, it'd be different if this knight was on f3 and this knight was still here. I'd lean more towards queen b6, but in this case, let's hop to this active diagonal, sort of race there between the bishops. Who's gonna, this bishop's ready to hop to d3. I'm cutting that out. So this is a moment to revisit queen b6 now. I think I'm going to do that. Yeah, we're entering a structure that I'm pretty familiar with, a very, very common structure in general. If white is going to go into it, queen b3, this one, chop, chop, that's the structure I'm referring to, where I have space with the pawn on c4 and the doubled b pawns, half open file. And from there, black looks to aim for, tries to shoot for b4. To undouble the pawns and play on the side of the board where black has space. White's having a think here, so there may be I think it might be misplayed here. White's next move, I'm thinking, because this move has not yet been played, b3 would not be a good idea. And to weaken these dark squares, okay. b3 pretty much gets punished eventually. Capture at some stage, bishop there, bishop there. The bishops can easily control all squares from this queen rook. Plenty of games where you end up winning the exchange after b3. It's way too weakening. Also c3 is an issue. Plenty of cases. Maybe a knight jumping in there. But here we are. I believe this is the correct way to follow up queen b3. And I think this should be the way to approach it. So not too behind on the clock. And we are, sure enough, in this structure. Sometimes I kind of go back and forth between b5 or h6, preserving the bishop. I'll sneak this one in right now. And this is pretty much saying to white that you have to get the rook off of the a file. Otherwise, I could play b4. Also, another way to look at it, this knight move to h4 right here is not, there's no guarantee it's tracking the bishop, because I don't have my bishop committed to e6 just yet. So if this move I could play here, then white gets out of the a file so that I don't have a b4 break. White isn't able to take with the a pawn, just this pawn, and I'm undoubling. So if this here, and the rook gets off of the a file, I have h6, which is threatening a fork. So boom, 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 h6. Okay, the rook is just getting off of that right now. I think now I want to take some care over my light square bishop. Yeah, let me do that. h6, and the following maneuver is this one here. This is too slow. Would not be surprised if the computer is saying that that black is for choice here. So let's go with this typical maneuver with this structure. This knight is doing what? Drifting towards b2. Now, this here, taking with the pawn and then eventually putting both heavy pieces on the b file. is a way to kind of just win. I don't know that there's a whole lot white is able to do to prevent this. Okay, I could also be a bit sneaky here. So there's another tactic that's in the air. This is certainly appealing with that idea to undouble and stack the rooks on the B file. Takes quite a few moves, but once it's there, there's pretty much no defending the B pawn. Or if white is able to get in position, it's not very coordinated. So the other idea here is bishop to d3, cutting off castles. Bishop here would be a blunder. Here, not quite a blunder, but if we get that exchange on c2, I have b4 there. Takes, knight takes, pawn takes, I end up getting the rook. So that's the tactic that I'm thinking about. However, if I play this, I believe, well, for one, the bishop could maybe challenge my bishop like this and we end up repeating. But maybe forward progress for white could be knight e5. I don't want to allow knight takes bishop. Do I want to really take on that square? Bishop takes here, and then bishop there. Maybe even f3 is available, and the king could go here. It may be best to go straight in for knight a4. No, I know I'm spending a lot of time. Let's see, knight a4, maybe bishop c2 is there, actually. Yeah, I think bishop c2 is there. Takes, and it's defended. I'm going to try for this one then. We'll see if white ends up playing bishop to c2. If bishop here, maybe I go here to a defended square and then revisit knight to a4. And in that case, bishop c2 would no longer be landing with a check. So if we're repeating like this, bishop goes back, knight here, bishop c2, I could take on b2. Difference between f5, h7, defended, not defended. Let's see what white comes up with. Thinking this is the correct way. Okay, it's going with that one. So now I could go in for this sequence and successfully undouble my b pawns based on the skewer here. Now, well, I'm threatening this pawn as well. There is this counter strike in the center at some stage. I'm leaning more towards going uncastled here, so king eventually residing on d7. If there's this capture, I mean, you're actually saying as white, I'm okay going uncastled. So there's probably not going to be a capture here. But tough spot for white, because if you do capture, or if you don't capture, I'm going to be winning a pawn shortly. 2 attackers on a3, a third right around the corner. I got to say, I've had this, well, this position normally comes about from white side. So I've had this, I've been able to execute this very sequence here, this tactical sequence many times in blitz games online. So, okay, coming up with the knight a3 to defend. That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so do I push once more, or pushing is interesting. Knight b1 is a defense, huh? It is a very far advanced pawn. Huh. Not really sure. I guess I'll take. I'm not too concerned about this. I'll eventually get a tempo against it. So this one here here, I'm prepared to play this. Knight jumps, I'm not afraid of. I have this to eventually question the knight. If pawn takes, I'm looking at this one. Okay, yeah, let me do this straight away. Because I don't want to see a quick... I don't want to see quick pressure on my b pawn. And these two offset. There's no way to disrupt this knight position, so that's why I feel comfortable putting my king here, but I could still hold off. Open a door for my bishop, and maybe I even try to hold up this pawn break. So if they're shooting for this, and it seems like it takes a bit more time for white to get this advance in. Something to question certainly is it worthwhile holding up the e4 break for maybe an extra move at the cost of weakening that e5 square? So here we are. Yeah, I don't like that idea, so I don't like the idea to weaken the e5 square. Maybe I should have played f6 first, actually. I'm not minding too much the check and the knight exchange, so right now, maybe f6. I have to be careful, actually, because the rook's getting to this square. Maybe I just compete here. Okay, let's see. Bit tricky. Maybe I take, actually. Yeah, I think I'm supposed to take. That might be the way. I'm going to take and go for something else here. A knight maneuver here, but first I want to get my b pawn up. It's delicate here. It's turned sharp and down on time. I'm looking for this transfer. This pawn could maybe be targeted. This one, not so much. Still has that responsibility. Very interesting approach by my opponent. Knight on its back foot, but it's still holding things together. As active pieces, I'm behind in development. Okay. Take. And... okay, I think that was helpful. My bishop on a very healthy square. King c6 is looking extra appealing now. Defending this pawn. Let's improve the king. I'm drawn to knight captures, yeah. This square is appealing. Also the back rank. Why am I not thinking about getting a rook to the back rank? There's a prize there. We could start with that. Yeah, no time to swipe this pawn. This would be a more convenient way to defend one of these two. Let's see. We could enter a race position, because if I track this pawn down, man, these pawns are going to fly. So these two get picked up, but there's no passers for white. These two are picked up, two connected passers. I'm pointing these details out because in race positions, it feels like in race positions I would be winning if we go wild with the rooks, trying to track down one another's pawns. Super, super valuable. Again, still trying to, I guess, work with this invasive pawn. I believe black is for choice here. There's one piece that's not playing for white. Healthier knight. Yeah, better king, better knight. I guess we could say better rooks. This is the only active white piece right now. These three are not playing. It's kind of telling too, my opponent not really coming up with a move. I'm not quite sure what white could try. Okay, that's that's the attempt. But now I'm seeing a way to completely control the rest of the game. This one here, I don't want to take and allow this knight a square, its favorite square. This knight is completely out of play now. The knight on b3 controls it entirely. And there's no move here besides the rook exchange. Otherwise, I'm getting to d1 and picking up the knight. Sweeping in for Caroni. I think, okay, let's go. I think there was probably some shift in the evaluation with the decision to take with the pawn. The resulting structure is favoring me. Okay, so I could get really active now with the rook. And let's see. Yeah, let's go straight in for rook there. And maybe even improve the king, or I'll go with this one. I may want to track down this pawn with the rook. Sure, is this king going to get wild? I mean, that may seem far-fetched. Maybe that is an idea. I'm gonna try to improve my king. If it ends up on the edge, there could be mating ideas. Okay. Put some pressure on that pawn. Okay. To go a little faster here. Rook has to go back over eventually to defend the knight. It's still out of squares. So there's none of this. I think the try really there needed to be king g4. Okay, I gotta return. Now I'm up the pawn. Take. I guess get going with some of my pawns here. This here, knight a3, is a try. I could defend that pawn though. Knight is getting a little active. Let's trade. No knight checks. I have an outside passed pawn. A pawn. Oh, they missed that I'm on the rook. No knight fork here. Maybe they were thinking that this was my pawn. That sometimes could be a blind spot. You never know how the mind quite thinks in time pressure. Okay, yeah, a couple interesting games there. I'm going to stop it right here. Feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.